Hi, welcome to Talking and Reading from Japan. I'm your host, Hidemi Woods. Here, I read episodes from the books I wrote and talk about anything that comes to my mind. I hope you enjoy with me. Today, I'll read an episode from one of my memoirs titled The Girl in Kyoto. Today's episode is called High Stakes. This is about a gambling game that I used to play at my grandparents' house during the New Year's. High stakes. This incident happened one New Year's at the end of the card game called Kabu, in which my uncle acted as dealer for the yearly family casino at my grandparents' house. He had lost quite a lot to my cousin, who was his son, as usual that night, and my cousin had left the table as the morning dawned. My uncle, my mother, and I were left at the table, and the game was about to close. My mother asked for a few more deals because she had also lost a large sum and wanted to get it back. To recover her loss quickly, she bet by the $100. The game was played for high stakes every year, but I had never seen the stakes this high. She lost in succession, and her loss swelled to $500 in a flash. This is the last bet, she claimed in desperation, and put $500 on the table. She tried to offset her total loss on the last deal of the game. All at once, the tension skyrocketed, and strange silence filled the room. I held my breath and withdrew my usual small bet. The cards were dealt tensely, and my mother and my uncle showed their hands of fate. Both hands were ridiculously bad, but my mother's was even worse. She lost $1,000. Burying her head in her hands, she repeatedly uttered, "It can't be true." I saw tears in her widely opened bloodshot eyes. Then she repeated, "Oh my, in a faint voice for 10 times, and staggered away. I clearly remember her state of stupor. A couple of days later, back in her home, I enticed her into playing Kabu with me since I learned how poorly she played it, and I knew I would win. I used to receive cash as a New Year's gift from my relatives during New Year's, and it would amount to $1,000. I dangled it in front of her and said that it would be her chance to get back her loss. She took it, and we played for $1,000. As I had thought, she lost another $1,000 to me. She said she couldn't pay, and I offered her the installment plan. I got $100 more to my monthly allowance of $30 for the next 10 months. That was the richest year in my early teens. Many years later, she failed in real estate investment and lost most of her family fortune that had been inherited for generations. The amount she lost that time was well over $1 million. And that was the money I was supposed to inherit. That was today's episode. My mother didn't gamble often. She had never gambled usually, except for this one day in a visit to my grandparents' house. It's a special occasion for a New Year's visit. It's an annual tradition for my family. And when we visited my grandparents' house in New Year's, gambling night was held, especially for that night only. But that was the only occasion my family played gambling. So you can easily imagine how exciting it was. And the game called Kabu that we used to play for gambling was was a blackjack-like game by using cards, and it started small amount, a small bet, but as the night grew deeper, the amount of bet got bigger, and so the tension in the room was intensified gradually. And to make things clear, this is gambling just among my family members, my grandparents' family, and visitors that were us, my parents and my sister and me. So there were no other relatives or neighbors or no strangers got involved in this game. This was a strictly family game. So don't worry, it's not illegal activity. So don't come to arrest me, please. And as I said talked here before. My uncle played as a dealer every time, and he lost a lot every year. I never had seen him win. And although despite a small bet, I stuck to the table until the dawn. So the amount of my earning was not so small, not so little by the end of the game. And that used to help my scarce allowance, and because after I got in my early teens, as you know, there were lots of things in the world that I wanted to buy. So this game helped me a lot. But that particular year was the biggest earning I had ever had because of my mother's misfortune. And I knew I would win easily because her hands are, especially that year, were so bad after game after game. So I thought I could take advantage of her bad luck that year. And I was right. I won a big time. But after that, I think my mother was so weak for high stakes. My mother wasn't suited for high stakes, I guess. But she was such a greedy woman. She's still greedy. She was the greediest woman I had ever seen. So her greed drove her to play for high stakes in not only in that family gambling, but also the investment or business. And so after I left home when I was 21 years old to become a musician, my parents used to be farmers. They worked on the fields of our family's fields that were also inherited for generations. But after I left, my mother's greed stopped working as a farmer, and she persuaded my father to do real estate business. And she sold some of the family fields and built an office building and an apartment complex. And in a short time, just five or less than 10 years, she failed that business miserably. And that time, the loss was too huge. And then she lost that real estate of hers entirely, except for the house itself. So she lost the office building and the apartment complex. And my parents, by that time, my grandparents were passed away. My grandparents passed away. So my parents lived on that, the savings that were left after they sold those real estates. But eventually, they couldn't afford to maintain their house itself and the land where the house stood because the high taxation and the maintenance fee. So eventually they sold everything, the house and the land that was our family's inheritance for almost 1,000 years. They sold it. So, although I won a big time that particular year with the gambling card game from my mother, I took a big amount of money from my mother. I also lost my inheritance money because before I was able to inherit the fortune, they nullified. They lost everything. But and now I also lost contact with them. I don't know how my parents are doing now because they cut me off. But because I left home to pursue my career, I didn't agree to success. I didn't agree to inherit any money as a successor of my family. I abandoned that right. So I didn't expect that I could inherit anything from my family because I withdrew everything by leaving my house. Leaving my house meant I threw away every right to inherit anything. So it wasn't a big shock to me when I heard that they sold the house or land and lost everything, because I had already given up to be a successor of the family. But just I thought the place they sold was where my family had lived for generations after generation. I mean, easily for over 100 years, the ancestors of my family had lived on the exact spot that house stood. So to me it was like how my ancestors felt when my parents sold it. If for those who are watching this podcast on a video cast, you can see the cover photo of today's episode's book. And this is actually the house they sold. This is actually the place I grew up. And the house itself was rebuilt when I was 9 years old. But this gate construction, this was the gate, the entrance to my house. This gate stood like this well over 100 years, possibly 200 years old, because when my grandfather was born, this gate structure had already been here. But now, since they sold it, the house and the gate, everything was demolished. And I don't know what it looks like now. It's someone else's property. So my mother's high-stakes bet resulted in this misery. Well, that's all for today. Thanks for listening. I'm Hidemi Woods. If you are interested in other things, other materials or works of my own, such as other memoirs, books, or my own music, my songs, you can visit hidemiwoods.com, HIDEMY woods.com, where you can find all links to my songs, books, blogs, podcast, or even to SNS, or even to merchandise I design and which merchandise that features my original illustrations and designs. If you like, please visit my website. Well, thanks again. I hope you can come back here again, and I can see you again here. Until next time, take care and be well.